Read, Watch, and Wine. Today's book to movie that we're going to review today is Breakthrough, based on a book called The Impossible by Joyce Smith. Producer is Devon Franklin. I like him. And director is Roxann Dawson.
Do you know him?
No, but he's married to Megan Good. He's a pastor.
Oh. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Champagne.
Look at you dropping knowledge.
Sorry, Megan.
See, I had to throw that out there for you.
So ignorant.
Oh my God.
Screenplay by Grant Nieporte. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, Grant. Sorry if not. Okay, so let's jump in. Well, first, let's introduce my co-host. I'm Champagne.
I'm Treava.
I'm Lynn.
Raya. On the house. Okay.
All right, so who wants to start?
I can start. Getting through the book at the early stages of it was a struggle for me, but finally once it kind of got going, I was really into it, so I did enjoy the book. I mean, I guess they could have cut out some of the constant praying in the book, but it was a Christian book, and so, I definitely understood the concept, but some of that I was like, okay, move on to the storyline. But overall, I
agree.
enjoyed the book.
Yeah.
There's a lot of praying.
Or the word, I pray. I pray.
I
pray. We pray. Want to do it?
They did pray a lot more than they did in the movie.
Which you want the movie to capture not just the Christians in the group.
Right.
You want it to also capture those who do not believe in the Lord, our God, and teach them.
Awesome God.
I was having a Martin moment.
Sorry.
I cut it out.
My bad. Go ahead. Continue.
Can we regroup? Yes. Oh, I was saying that. I'm sorry, I got distracted. I think that I really like the book. I love how they expressed the medical aspect of things, how they went into the detail to see how bad.
Right?
Exactly. It made you understand how bad off he was.
You understood.
Yes. Because
I did. Thank you, Joyce Smith, for adding all that in there because I understood every bit of it and I loved it.
I absolutely knew she was gonna enjoy. Remember I said, I was like, we're gonna enjoy this. It's too technical. I know what she's talking about. Is the boy breathing or not? Just tell me if he's breathing or not. All this other stuff.
I'm gonna bring in the viewpoint of a mother who's had a child go through something traumatic and exactly what they were doing. Like, she was explaining to us how they explain to you as a parent if you're one who wants to know. Like, they want to give you every single detail so that you are really clear on what happened. And I think that her expressing it in the book is allowing for any other parent that ever has to go through something to understand these are the things that are going to happen. Like, whenever something happens, she was like, especially like, remember when he was having like the other episodes and she had to watch him have seizures and stuff when he was coming out, and she was like, if they had told me this was going to happen, I wouldn't have been so freaked out about it. So I think a lot of her description in this book is for someone who reads it and is able to, and happens to have something happen to their child. They will get that, these are the type of things that people go through. Don't lose faith. Things are going to go good, then they're going to go bad, then they're going to go good, they're going to go bad. And if it is your time and your child's time, they'll get better.
I agree.
Preach.
Well, that's a great perspective, Rhea. Thanks for adding that to the dialogue.
Didn't sound pretty.
Go ahead. You want to add it in.
No, I was going to say but.
Oh, okay.
I just couldn't take it. It was driving me crazy.
I loved all the detail of it.
I did too, Lynn.
It wasn't horrible. I agree with the overdoing of the praying, but I understand why they prayed as much as, because it does make you a little bit more like, oh my God, this possibly could happen. Could this happen? It's happened to her. So I think it does give people faith who's really religious, and some people who may not be as religious. It's still
faith to the faithless.
Yeah. Go ahead, girl.
Really?
I do like how the Dr. Garrett was talking about how all the medical issues that he was going through, it absolutely does not make sense. And so he acknowledged that her prayer, it has to be the only odd man out versus medicine. So I liked how instead of in the book praying, they made it a good blend between medical and prayer in the movie. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Because, it's really deep, a doctor having to accept the fact that the miracle just happened. That just goes against everything that they've learned.
Especially being the best in his field, specialist. Yeah, I completely think that was above, or they really portrayed that very well to make it seem that it was a hard pill for him to swallow, to acknowledge that was a leading factor.
I was looking forward to a part in the book with I don't want to call her the voodoo lady or whatever, but the holistic nurse or doctor that came and that was chanting and kind of made him go a little crazy. I was kind of looking forward to that, and the nasty nurse with the nasty attitude.
Yes, and the neurologist too.
Why would I just imagine that you really wanted to see the nasty nurse part?
Because I imagine, I'm not going to leave that out, but I would imagine cussing her out, being the mother
That's what she said.
Yeah,
and
so
I remember doing
that's
that
why I felt like we probably could have related to that particular scene. So that's kind of why I want to say, because to see her really get angry based on someone's energy.
Yeah.
You know?
I do think, however, they probably left that out because they don't want to promote that in a hospital. And on the way that she described it in the book, it really, I mean, because I've been there, I have had a time or two where I've had to snatch somebody up and say, back up off my child. So I think that they probably did not want to portray that because, you know, you don't want to do that. But you do still have to be your child's advocate, especially when they're out of it. Just like every doctor, nurse, everybody's human. There are good ones and there are bad ones, and there are some that are coming to punch a clock and leave. But they don't want you to attack someone. You may not necessarily know what's going on. So that's my 2 cents on that.
You don't know what the lady, right.
From that minor change as it relates to not showing the scenes with some of the arguments, I just felt like they really respected the storyline. And so they didn't waver too much. I know they wavered with the kids because somehow the kids didn't line up. I can't quite remember how, but it seems like there were more kids. But
in the book.
She had more children.
More children in the book than it was in the movie. But I really loved the way that they still kind of really stayed true to the storyline and the graphics that they used in the movie.
Oh
my gosh! At the end when he's kind of swimming, trying to get to the top, and I love that part of the movie.
Yes,
Spoiler alert if you have not seen it.
See, I thought that was a little over the top and dramatic. I was like, yeah, I get what it symbolizes, but at the same time, him in a hospital bed in the middle of the water trying to swim out of it, and he's trying to come back too.
It took away from, you want this to seem realistic. I mean, it was a true story. You want people to believe it.
Especially when it relates to prayer. You want it to be as real as possible. So I thought it was dramatic.
Totally different though. I looked at it more as if you were in the afterlife and trying to get back. I feel like that's how it's going to feel or how it's going to look. I know it sounds weird, but you know what I'm saying?
No,
like,
I think I got the same feeling.
Yeah,
like, he wasn't
like that's how I would feel trying to you in this dream and you trying to get back, and the only thing you remember is being underwater. So you is this him trying to fight for his life and come back? You know what I'm saying?
I get what they were going for. I get it.
I felt like I was in a Disney movie. I'm going to go be honest with you. I thought that was too much.
Oh my God, I love that part.
But the actual coming up out of graphics of the water and then his face coming through, I felt that was more realistic, that he probably felt that way. Although in the book she clearly said he didn't really remember that in the beginning.
But he had that one episode where he remembered it, remember?
No, I mean in the beginning.
Screaming. Oh, okay.
So that's why I was like, that was a little weird. And then he went on and still had little fits of remembering until they prayed that away too.
What do you think about the adopted son? Because in the book, I was kind of warmed when she actually went to the computer and did some research and she found the son that she gave up for the adoption. And they just didn't, they had her tell how she gave a son up for adoption.
But it didn't touch on it.
But they didn't touch on it on the book. I mean, I guess it would have made the movie even longer. Because they didn't touch on it in the movie, I'm sorry. It'd have made it even longer if they'd have kind of veered off in that storyline. But I felt like they could have broke up some of the hospital scenes if they would have just added something else, because it was too much in the hospital.
So now what I find it interesting you say that, because I felt like they rushed through the hospital scenes. I felt like there were so many more scenes they could have shown that were in the book that would have made it even a little more interesting. It was because it is a movie. I know you have to kind of rush, but there were so many things that she went through that I feel like should have been in that movie. So it was a long process and it was very hard for her to get through it, and I think that the way they did the movie, it was much more rushed.
Yeah.
So it didn't seem like it was as long as it really was. I mean, she wasn't as drained. She had the one episode, but she was drained long before that. And I think that also helps to let the audience understand that even through all of that, she was still praying. She was still believing that, you know, he was going to be okay. So I think they lost that a little bit in translation when it came to the book.
I agree, especially when she had her diabetic coma because she wasn't taking care of herself. I think that they should have played that out a little bit more and showed her going through her struggles, because as a caretaker, you often don't take care of yourself and realize what happens to the caretaker in a situation. Yeah, it's about her son and what happened to him, but at the same time, people also forget how the caretaker feels. So I think if they would have showed her not eating and then her skipping meals, or if they were like, here, eat something, and she said no, or if it was like, hey, lay down, and no, she didn't lay down, and then also with her actually being in a hospital-like situation, not just sitting on the edge of the bed counting down the hours.
Exactly.
In the movie, it would have made it seem more of that struggle of a caregiver.
I also feel like it also would touch more on faith. So regardless of what her son was going through, God was helping him through that, but he also helped save her out of what she was going through. He also helped save the other kids in the hospital that had issues that they prayed about.
But they didn't talk about those other kids.
Exactly.
Oh, that made me very
That
upset
was-
that they didn't talk
yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
That was a very good. That would have been a very good scene.
So you guys have to actually read the book to be able
Yes.
for us to understand what we're talking about. We're not going to spoil that for you. You have to read the book to understand how she helps other people.
So the one thing that I don't know if I missed it in the book, and you guys help me, but I don't recall that tension between her and the pastor in the book. Like I didn't recall her having
I don't remember
attitude
that.
with the young pastor in the book.
She did have attitude with a young pastor in the book. It was just not portrayed as significant as it was, because she still, when she first got to the hospital, she did say the same thing, like, what is he doing here?
I don't remember.
Oh,
that
see,
either.
I don't remember
that either.
She did. She said, she was like, I don't know why he's here. But from the movie, I couldn't understand why they felt like him and the boy were so close, or him and the husband was so close. I missed all that.
Who was so close now?
Like when in the movie, they showed a scene where he said, let's connect at whatever, maybe it was like a church event or something.
The pastor wanted him to come to the youth
group.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand the significance of how they were trying to make it seem like he was so close.
See, I thought they were trying to convey the fact that he was trying to bring youthfulness to the church by bringing the rapper in, and it was just a symbol to show that right after that rap concert, all of a sudden the son, who's kind of had an attitude the whole show, seemed interested in going to church. Like I thought
He still had attitude. He was bad as shit.
But he didn't have an attitude. But he didn't have an attitude in the book. I didn't
She
get.
didn't portray that again. The book
but
is the
it's-
mom writing about her son.
That's true. And that age, he probably would have.
He
obviously.
he would have, he no angel.
Yeah, but he did need to get in the movie. I did want to kind of just smack him.
Yeah.
Give him a little smack. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that tension that they portrayed threw off the storyline. I just didn't recall it, and I was like,
Yeah,
I didn't remember her having an issue. But I was very pleased with how they carried the pastor and her relationship.
The casting of him. Outstanding.
It was.
Like,
He
that's
looks
exactly
like
what I
a
pictured.
youth pastor, definitely. Too.
Yeah. His hair wasn't as crazy as I thought it was going to be, because she did mention like the weird hair thing. But I do
It was
like
pretty weird in the real picture of him, though.
Oh, the real picture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Like the divided part.
The real picture is, speaking of that though, all of the real pictures that they showed, like even the one with his best friend,
Bawling.
I was like excited about the
I was
casting
bawling.
because I thought they went out of
Dead
their
on.
way to make it diverse.
Yeah.
They did, and
But
they
they
made me
did.
cry
Picture,
so
and
much.
It was
Was it?
diverse. So
Right.
I was like, oh, well, the best friend was the little girl. What's her name? Shayla.
Yeah.
That she was an African American little girl. So I don't know
Oh, you
why.
thought that was
Lynn, I got
Hollywood?
emotional also. I thought it was
Hollywood too.
But it really was. I saw the pictures and was like, oh my gosh, they look just like the characters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what about the doctor? Did you feel like that was Hollywood?
I felt like I feel safe with Allstate. The good hands, people. No, I love seeing him in that show. I loved him.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, although they never showed a real picture of the doctor,
No.
so I don't know if that portrayed him well, but I think he knocked that role out the park.
I do, and I think that they should have left that LeBron versus Jordan scene
With the doctor. Yes.
because that really showed that he showed that bedside manner with his patients.
Yeah.
And when they had it with the pastor, I was like, no, this is not it. And then I'm like,
Right.
well, what happened to the tie? Like, you can't
Yes,
switch
you took him
characters,
the tie,
because to me,
yeah.
like, coming back later on and giving him the tie was so symbolic that, like, even though he's treated and he's moved on, that doctor will never forget his story. And so that meant a lot to me in the book, and how they were just like, oh, well, squeeze this hand, squeeze that hand. With the pastor, did not
Right,
like that
that's true.
aspect.
You know what, Lynn? I agree with you 100%. I didn't like that change because I felt felt like in the book, the doctor was kind of not really believing him that he was doing this. And then so then when he did the whole basketball thing, the doctor was like, oh, and it just reiterated that whole, the doctor having to accept the fact that this miracle was happening.
Exactly.
So yeah, I wish they wouldn't have changed that dynamic either. But I still love the movie.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And that's the thing, Christie, Joyce Smith in the movie, the helicopter scene. In the book, she didn't get in the helicopter. She was too scared.
Oh.
But
No, she got in the helicopter.
She just freaked out a little bit before she went in.
She was apprehensive, and they kind of brushed over it in the movie, but in the book, she was like, had a panic attack, she was freezing.
She
got in the book. I mean, got in the
Because I remember
helicopter.
she was driving, I thought,
And they
it was
was,
like,
and
she was like
the
45 minutes
person,
away. And
or the
her
whoever,
husband
maybe
was.
the person who was
Maybe
flying the
cut that
thing, told her you don't have to, and she was like, "Oh, thank God," because she was trying to get in.
She didn't get in, and she got to the hospital, and the helicopter hadn't arrived.
Right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm
Yes.
so
Like,
mistaken.
She was like, wait a minute, something happened. Something must have
Right.
happened.
Something must have happened. Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yep, you're right. She didn't get in that
Yeah.
helicopter, so.
But Christie Metz was an amazing rock star
I
in that
love
movie.
her.
Her
She can
The
passion.
scene
Yes.
where she was praying and screaming to God because her son they had
was-
called it. I
Oh,
barely could see the,
yeah.
the screen
Oh,
because
it's
I was
ridiculous,
bawling. I ran out of tissues. I had started using my shirt to like wipe my face so I
And
could
then
actually
everybody's
see the
waiting
screen.
outside and could hear her.
And then when like the
screaming.
beeping, like when his heart started again,
Yes.
you couldn't really hear it. It was kind of faint,
Yeah.
and she couldn't hear it because she was praying so
Right.
loud. But when the doctor was like, "There is a pulse," I started bawling again.
Oh,
Right.
I know.
You know who I love? The guy who was giving the CPR. He would not
I ain't
stop.
stopping. I'm not stopping, doctor. Oh, my
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How about the portrayal of the EMT guy?
Oh, the fireman.
The
I liked his
firefighter
role.
and
When
too.
I kept asking, and he was adamant to say, "Who said that to me?" And then when he said that
Yeah.
he's not a believer or a firm believer, and that changed his mindset, that right there was so powerful to me.
It was.
I know. He kept saying, you know,
He said, "Y'all
boss or
joking
whatever
with
his
me."
name is, Captain said to
Like,
go
stop
back.
playing with me.
Yeah,
You
stop
said to go
joking.
back.
Stop joking with me. I heard you say go back. He was like, what?
And then, how about the scene that I also wanted him to show a little bit more was the mom. The mom who said that she was praying for her husband and her husband passed, and what makes him
Yes.
so special.
Oh, the teacher.
The
Was that
teacher.
They put it as a teacher in the movie.
It was in a movie, it was a teacher, but it didn't say a teacher in the book. It said it was another mom or something.
Oh, really? I don't remember that either.
No, I didn't think
I don't remember that scene at all in the book or in the movie.
I do remember
No,
that.
I
in the movie,
remember
but
the
I don't remember it.
conversation because Joyce, the mom, she got so upset. Why would she talk to him that way? Or-
She approached her.
yeah.
She almost
approached her.
she
Who
almost
was
had
the
like
lady
hands on her.
talking to? The
The
teacher
little
who
boy. She was talking to
John.
in the movie?
In
yeah.
both.
Oh,
No, in both. Yeah.
She talked to John and she
I
asked
don't
him,
know.
and she was
Oh.
in the way it was portrayed in the book. To me, it came across a little bit more harsh, but in
It
the
did.
movie,
Oh, wow.
they softened it up, and then
Yeah.
they also kind of brought it back during the church service, which did not happen in the book either.
No.
So I kind of wanted to move back to the prayer part that happens in the church service at the end. And we were talking about prayers, of course. And with the prayers, it was said like a bunch of times in the book, like over and over again, I pray, I pray, I pray. But I think they did a good job of not spacing it out throughout the whole movie and just putting it at the end. And at the end, when they had the pastor ask, hey, if you prayed at school or you prayed at home or you prayed or you're the fire department from all the different areas, because in the beginning of the book she expressed that all these different EMTs and firemen and rescuers all came from different counties because they all felt the inclination to come. It was slightly grazed over, but also said at the end when they said, if you are from this fire department and this EMT service and this rescuing service, please stand up. And when the neighbor that automatically prayed when she first saw them go through the ice, and then also prayed at the end.
outside with the ambulance going by.
Exactly. She was always praying. And so I think that instead of saying it over and over again, they used that scene to make sure it hit home that it was, they literally, everybody and everywhere that had an inclination to pray, prayed.
Yeah.
And so I like how they kind of summed it up at the end that like, even though you don't know a person, you're still being prayed and talked about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like that they did that.
Because the one thing that was driving me crazy in the book was the constant references to it. So this allowed you to just visualize it and see it.
It was
kind of wrap it
tangible.
up. Yeah. And it wasn't
that.
just constantly talking about. That's when I was starting to get a little bored in the book. I'm like, okay, I get it. Everybody's praying. Move on, the storyline. So you're right. And it really made it really powerful at the end too.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it did.
The most powerful thing to me where I was also in tears was when the basketball team was all standing in a line. They're all holding hands, and the chair had his jersey on it.
Yes. Nice.
And it just showed that even though he's not physically with them, he's still with them in spirit. And that I lost it.
Why do I have no memory of that scene?
Yeah.
I must have been
It was
crying.
very short.
It was
It was
a 3-second snippet
Yeah.
as they were
Okay.
going around showing all the students, and then at the end they were all standing there in their blue jerseys on the court holding hands, and there was a chair with a jersey over it on the basketball court, and that right there just was ingrained in my head because I just really was moved by that.
The part I was moved by is they didn't know the entire neighborhood was outside of the hospital.
Oh, yeah,
And the
singing.
young
When they were
lady,
singing,
Shayla,
her voice
started
is beautiful,
singing.
by the
Oh
way.
my God.
Yeah,
So
she does have a pretty voice.
But it was amazing. I
Yeah.
thought the little one of the little girls was she was just a rocking and singing too. It was so
Pastor's
cute.
daughter.
Yeah.
It was so there were so many powerful moments.
It really
in that movie.
was.
It's just you got goosebumps. You're crying. You're laughing. You're smiling. I tell you what, though, Christie Metz, that woman is an awesome actress.
She really is.
I felt everything in that book from her.
I agree.
I love her in This Is Us also.
Oh my God.
But I just
Yes.
think she really showed that passion in this movie. She brought it out.
Yeah.
She
did.
did. I
really
agree.
did. She's part of the
Yeah.
reason I cried most of the time, I'm sure.
Yep, same. And I'm not
vote
even
on
a
this?
crier.
Yes.
We ready to vote? What you gonna vote for on this one?
I am going to give it a full glass.
And I agree with you, Champagne. I think it deserves a full glass for the adaptation also.
Yeah.
Lynn?
I also give it a full glass. I think that there were parts that were left out, but the parts that they did emphasize made it even more powerful. So I give it a full glass.
Of course, I give it a full glass as well.
Looks like a full bottle, lady.
Yay!
Woo! A full bottle goes to Breakthrough. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. And please check us out on our future podcast where we will talk about more books and movies. You can now catch us on Spotify, TuneIn,
iTunes. Jinx. You're gonna cook.
and of course on Podbean. You can hit us up on Instagram at ReadWatchWine, or if you want to just pop us an email, it's readwatchwine@gmail.com.
What are we doing next?
I'm not sure.
You have to see.
Stay